Hello, my name is Maria Ellie Marquez Marine, and I'm going over political security in reference to Fairbanks, Alaska. Let's begin with how many federally recognized tribes there are in Alaska. There are 226 federally recognized tribes, and that differs vastly from state tribes. The impact that this has is if there is a disaster, federal funds would be given to those tribes that are federally recognized, and the state would have to deal with the other tribes they recognize. This is just a snapshot of the 226 tribes that are recognized. They come from very different regions here in Alaska, and one of the mentions in our reading was that political security could be different in each village. If they were allowed to politically govern themselves, self-govern, it would look different on the East Coast versus interior, and a lot of it stems from tradition or from general practices that they've had for many years. In 2014, there was a census of how people identified themselves. Some identified themselves as American Indian, however, there was Alaska Natives, and at last count, the Bureau of Indian Affairs had Alaska Natives at 80,000. Here you could see that they recognized individuals, recognized themselves to be one at 110,000. So, toning it back down to Fairbanks, Alaska, what was up here that actually made the city very popular? One of the interactive maps that broke down Alaska into regions has a very vast groups kind of centered in regions that you can tell right here. I am aware that the coastal regions was kind of left out of the map, but a good example is the Koyukon Athabascans. They are, if you come in reference to Fairbanks, we are right here. However, they would be traveling up here to follow wild game and fish. And that is something that was done with seasonal changes. Fairbanks is now known as the second largest population here in Alaska, and it has maintained that title. There is a highway that runs through, and it pretty much provides military movement, transportation of goods, as well as other tourists visiting other villages, as well as members of other villages coming here to Fairbanks to resupply or replenish their goods before heading back out. And this is a closer view of the purple icons. Fairbanks being here, this is Minto, and this was actually known for the trading of fur. Eventually, it became Fairbanks being a trading post, established as a trading post over individuals having their own fur establishment. When regions up here are allowed to self-govern themselves, each one of them could draw from traditional experiences or from what they see their community actually needs. If it was allowed to be not only experienced but allowed to grow, it would provide very sorry, it would provide data that many other villages could replicate as to how to work together, not just be given a title. In order to be politically secure, their voice has to matter over just the history of these groups, and that's all that they want out of it is just the history. Um, One of the ways that you can look at it is, as we mentioned before, 80,000 to 110,000 people here in Alaska identify themselves as being Athabascan. And if you look at each law or regulation that impacts these villages, you would see that the number of people that would feel constrained by it is very large in terms to villages not being able to dictate laws on their own term. And that concludes my presentation on political security here in Fairbanks, Alaska. Thank you.